Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to the 5 stages of a Chicago winter. Now, I watched a video not really recently, a few months ago, about 5 US states that have winters colder than the UK. It was also by Lawrence from Lost in the Pond. Fantastic channel, by the way. And I was shocked at the temperatures that you guys see in the States. It really blows my mind. I know in Canada, you guys get, really, really cold temperatures as well. And Chicago, I think they call it the Windy City, because going by the name, I think, there's quite a lot of wind chill there during winter. I wonder how cold it gets, because Chicago wasn't one of those states mentioned in that other video, but I suspect it probably gets pretty cold there. So yeah, this video should be quite interesting. Let's do it. All right.
It's that time of year again when the autumn leaves disappear under a carpet of cold white shit. In fact, cold white shit comes to dominate the city.
That bean is huge. I didn't realize it was this big. It's massive.
And can be found on park benches, treetops, and roads where it subsequently turns into cold brown shit. Experience has taught me that there isn't just one, but several stages to coping with the Windy City's coldest season. At least 3 of them involve whiskey. For the perpetually curious, the job has fallen to me to guide you through each stage. So, if you're not subscribed to this channel, do that now. For me, it all started in February 2007 when I truly learned the value of staring off into the middle distance. I was visiting my then American fiancée, who is now my wife, but is still American. Woohoo! One night, I found myself whispering sweet nothings into her ear, such as,
"Hi."
Or,
"So, personal question. In your infinite wisdom, how far is the Sears Tower from this, the bountiful kingdom of Indiana?"
About 200 miles. Also, how is that a personal question?
To me, it was deeply personal.
To me, it is completely and utterly a little bit personal.
It's funny because I've recently been watching the older Lost in the Pond videos, and it's quite interesting to see how the style has evolved, because this is quite a newer one, I think. Well done, Lawrence.
For as long as I could remember, I'd harbored a fascination with the Sears Tower bordering on sizable. In the early 1990s, my dad had taught me it was the tallest building in the world. Now that I lived one state away, I had to see it for myself.
Was the Sears Tower ever the tallest building? I mean, maybe before the Burj in Dubai? Maybe.
Could barely contain my excitement until somebody switched on the weather. The Chicagoland area will see wind gusts of up to 22 miles per hour with wind chill right around -2 degrees Fahrenheit or -19 Celsius if you're watching this report from the UK for some absolutely bizarre reason.
He does an amazing American accent. I guess he's been living out there for 15 years, but that was really good.
Finally, expect to see up to 2 feet of cold white shit in the early afternoon.
Despite my initial concerns, we arrived at my wife's consensus and went to Chicago that very day. I saw the Sears Tower, marveled at its general height, and lost the will to live after about 30 minutes.
Being absolutely broke, we opted not to go inside, which is a pity because I'd forgotten to bring my gloves. And earmuffs. And a proper winter jacket.
Being a stubborn 25-year-old, I quickly reasoned that it wasn't my fault. The blame lay squarely at the feet of the unrelenting tundra that is Chicago.
I vowed that very day to never...
Wow, so Chicago gets cold. I mean, this cold.
Catch myself living in the Windy City, a promise I kept for almost 10 years.
But now that I'm living in Chicago, I've learned 2 very important things. 1, it pays to wear the right clothes. And 2, living in Chicago and visiting are 2 very different things.
Stage 1.
Researchers believe that human beings remain the only species in the observable universe to periodically alter their clocks. And I know what you're thinking, ooh, Lawrence, the clocks went back in autumn, not winter, so this doesn't gel with the rest of the video. I'm quite aware of that, thank you, but the effect that it has on daylight is felt most keenly in the winter, so shut it. And of course, such clock tinkering is not exclusive to Illinois. The end of daylight saving time affects all states that don't rhyme with Hawaii or Arizona. However, it doesn't affect all places equally. On December 21st, the shortest day of the year, Chicago goes dark at 4:23 p.m. In Indianapolis, where I used to live, 5:23 p.m. And this isn't just down to the time difference between the two cities or the fact that one is more southerly than the other. It's also impacted by where they sit along those time zones.
I don't know why, I need someone to actually explain to me why we put the clocks back and bring them forward. Because why not just let them run? Why don't you just let them go? What do you get? Because when you put the clock back by an hour, you get an extra hour of sunlight, but you put it forward anyway, 6 months later. I probably sound really dumb right now, but I just don't get why we do it. Do you guys do it in the... I think you do it in the States, don't you?
Indianapolis is at the extreme west of the Eastern time zone and therefore gets darker almost an hour later than cities on the East Coast. Chicago, meanwhile, is at the extreme east of the Central time zone, meaning that it gets darker almost an hour earlier than Central Nebraska. Between the two cities, Chicagoans might argue that they got the raw end of the deal. And from experience, few things feel as daunting as leaving work and catching the L train 30 minutes into nighttime, especially when Chainsaw Jim is on board and refusing to give up 2 of his 3 seats.
I remember when I used to be a teacher, and you typically in the UK, you get to school at about 7:30, latest really. So I'd be leaving sometimes at maybe 6:45, and it would be pitch black in the winter. And then you leave school at about 6-ish, and it's dark. So you leave home when it's dark, you get home when it's dark. You're not going outside much during the day while you're working because you're marking books. Yeah, that was a... interesting job for sure. A lot of good though, a lot of job satisfaction and banter among the teachers, but yeah, tough job.
On the flip side, the winter solstice does see Chicago get lighter earlier in the morning than Indianapolis, which is good news for parents and my kitty cat, because only an animal would dare to upstage me. Tragically, as a YouTube sensation, it's unlikely I will ever again be awake in time to enjoy this benefit, so post your condolences below. Thankfully, though, winters in Chicago don't entirely amount to one poorly lit hellscape, unless you're doing the midnight breaststroke in Lake Michigan, naked. In the run-up to Christmas, the city breathes under the buzzing lights of Chris Kindle Market, Lincoln Park Zoo, and the Party City on West Fullerton. The sound of Christmas music emanating from the shops is enough to make this Englishman forget all about the bad stuff. Okay, that's not quite true. I mean, we've all heard Wonderful Christmas Time, right?
Wow.
The point
They need to stop that dog. I don't think it's healthy for that dog to eat that stuff.
is, the festive period has the capacity to touch the heart of not just me, but every Chicagoan, even the ones who sound angry but aren't. At Christmas, even the cold white feels pleasant against my face, and Mum, I hope you watch this video from the beginning. While ice skating usually has the undesirable effect of annihilating my ankles, I can still enjoy the happiness that it brings other people, and I'm definitely not here to watch any of them fall.
I'm such a bad ice skater. I fall down every time. It's probably because I don't go enough to build up a skill level.
And yes, Chris Kindle Market, a German Christmas tradition in which people from all walks of life get to find out what it's like to be in an episode of Rick Steves' Europe. The mulled wine, the bratwurst, the festive vocabulary, but in German. This is Christmas in Chicago. From the first Christmas songs to the New Year's Eve fireworks off Navy Pier, the holiday season can make newbies to the city believe that Chicago winters represent a sort of utopian paradise. But just as with fireworks, what goes up must come down.
Yep. Stage 3. Okay, it's getting real. It just looks cold. Just, I can feel the wind almost like
The American
in real
author
life.
Eric Larson once wrote, "I must confess a shameful secret. I love Chicago best in the cold." And while that's easy to say when you have the world's most Scandinavian name, it ceases to be true in my case the minute I hang up my calendar. You have to remember, I grew up in the English town of Grimsby, where the average January temperature is around 38 degrees Fahrenheit. And as a child, I thought that was cold.
Well, I gotta tell you, Larry, in the Chicagoland area, that same month sees average temperatures 11 degrees colder than that. For my inexplicably high number of British viewers, Chicago's January average is close to -3 degrees Celsius, making it the city's coldest month.
Thanks, Cody. January is to December what the fourth National Lampoon's film is to its predecessor, all downhill after Christmas. Where once the city was vibrant, by January it descends into a desolate hellscape, moonlighting as the third largest city in America. Shops are not closed but feel like they are. And the leaves, a thing of warm, fiery beauty in my October special, now implanted into the sidewalk like the Fallout Boy tattoo that my wife's cousin Chad claims to have on his arse. But just as that dramatic image remains mercifully hidden underneath the unlikely hero that is his camo pants, the sidewalks too become buried under 8 inches of cold white
Wow, 8 inches. I mean, that's a lot of snow. Like, you would need to plow that daily, because otherwise people are going to be slipping and falling all over the place. And obviously you're going to have to put grit on the roads so that, you know, cars don't skid. Oh my God, I was driving once and I briefly lost control. The car started sliding. It was terrifying.
And it's usually at that very moment that I hear music.
Oh, there he is. Hello? Oh, hi, Lawrence. Yeah, I see you typing there. This is Lawrence. How's July 2023 treating you? That's good. Yeah, February. Well, you've already been through February. Hey, listen, to make this easier and to advance the plot of the video, could you switch on your microphone and camera? Thanks.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great! Future you is having a fantastic time.
Well, that's good to hear, future Lawrence, because, you know, February me isn't, I'm afraid.
Well, that's not good. Did Tara forget Valentine's Day?
Well, no, that's our job. Don't you remember anything?
Sorry, you know, a lot's happened in the last
job.
8 months.
You mean 5 months?
Well, no, because technically you released this special in November, even though you're playing the February and July versions of yourself. It's very confusing. The point is, you don't know it yet, but you have a big life event coming up before you even get to February.
Okay, but I'm in February
Stay
now,
tuned.
and it's awful.
Okay, are you going to refresh my memory?
I mean, it's Chicago, February, you know, when our seasonal affective disorder kicks in.
Oh, that.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about it, you know, how we mentally assign colours to every month of the year. So, like, November is black with hints of yellow to signify earlier evenings and bonfires.
And July.
Yeah, like seasonal. I used to date a lady who, like in winter when she lived here, because she was from Australia, she would get legit depressed because, like, in Australia, obviously it's like warm a lot of the time. And yeah, it really affected her mood. Like, I didn't even know such a thing existed, but yeah, it does.
July is an intense orange to signify sizzling food and warm beaches.
Yeah, all right, but ever since we moved to Chicago, do you remember which colour we assigned to February?
Blue.
Yeah, blue, a depressing shade of cerulean blue.
Well, come on. I mean, at least cerulean has the distinction of being a perfect anagram of our name.
So it does. Very good point, very good
Cerulean
point. But look,
brown.
it's not even that it's Chicago's coldest month. It just feels like it is. I mean, it's also the shortest month of the year, and yet somehow in this city it feels like the longest. You expend all of that winter energy at Christmas, you push yourself through January knowing you've at least devised a weight loss plan to keep you occupied, and then February hits and you realise you've got to do it all over again. Except the weight loss part, and I'm sitting here wondering, will it ever end?
I mean, as somebody who's been through it, I can tell you this, right? It's just like all of the other years. February never ends until it does. And then you forget what the big...
When's the next leap year? Is it this year? Like, I don't know.
fuss was all about.
Yeah, well, I suppose you're right. So what was this big life event then?
Oh, don't worry about all of that. All will be revealed in an upcoming special.
Look, for now, I've got to go. The weather report says it's going to plummet down to 83 degrees in the afternoon. Give my love to your wife, our wife.
Yeah.
The wife.
Will do.
The final stage. Around March, I'm guessing.
I used to say that I could only stomach life in Chicago 6 months out of the year, but I think I was wrong about that. I think it's closer to 10. Around March the 1st, I don't know, something happens to my brain, and the psychological barriers that winter had put up begin
To melt.
gradually to fade.
Yeah.
Instead of cerulean, I now see mostly brown with faint hints of green, as if I were looking at a Restoration Hardware or an English football pitch from the 80s. Average March temperatures in Chicago, Cody Dewpoint, are...
Let me see here. About 8 degrees warmer than in February.
But more than that, March is when winter technically comes to a close. And Chicago even finishes winter the way it started it, with festivities. The city's St. Patrick's Day celebrations more or less mark the end of
St. Paddy's Day.
winter, with thousands of drunk revelers gathering to stare at a green river dressed in the very same colour, sporting complexions not far behind. I might be exaggerating a bit. Come to think of it, that might be where those hints of green come from. It's certainly not from the leaves, which, much like me, don't show themselves until the middle of April. It's fair to say that America is a vast country. No two cities experience the pain of winter in quite the same way, except for Minneapolis and St. Paul, but only because they're twins. While the US is home to several regions with colder winters than Chicago, no single city in England can say the same, not even Narnia. For that reason alone, I might never come to terms with stages 3 and 4, and believe me, I've tried. I even dress like Han Solo in that bit where he slices open a tauntaun. And yet, I find his carbon freeze arc way more relatable.
Interesting. Chicago
Thanks
looks like
for
a cool
watching
city,
this
to be
video
fair.
and sharing it with all of your Chicago friends.
Well done, Lawrence. That was an amazing video. I could tell that you put a lot of effort into it. It really was fantastic and fun to watch. Chicago looks like a really cool city. I love the overground train system that they have, and that silver gigantic jelly bean thing. I know it just sits there, but it looks so cool, and I didn't realize how big it was. Honestly, I thought it was about the same height as a person, but it's gigantic. I definitely want to get there just to take a picture with it. You know, the typical cliche, probably just stand next to it, maybe lean up against it. But yeah, like, I want to experience why it's called the Windy City, and you're not going to experience that unless you visit there. I just really want to feel it for myself firsthand. I do, like, it's weird. I enjoy summer, but I honestly think I prefer winter just because it's more cozy and it's easier to get warmer than it is to cool down. For me especially, I get hot really easily. But yeah, really fun video. Can't wait to visit Chicago. Looks like a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.